You're watching Threshold with Jack Cary on CARC Universal.
Ever since its discovery, Gobekli Tepe has offered one of the most perplexing of all of the ancient discoveries made in recent years. Gobekli Tepe is in a long line of prehistoric or very, very ancient, I should say, megalithic structures that really encircle the world. But it's in two of these structures that we begin to see part of the overall picture of why they were constructed. And that secret is a profound one. Hi, my name is Jack Cary, and I'm your host here on Threshold. And today, you guys, I got something good for you. So, recently, and I'm talking about in the last few months, they've made and published findings that they made at Gobekli Tepe. Of course, these findings are, being fought over by various scientists, but their science is pretty sound. And what they discovered was that Gobekli Tepe and the enigmatic animals, bugs, things like that they had on there, like scorpions that were carved into the stones themselves, which are sort of a T-shaped stone. They made the discovery that the structure adhered to the principle of archaeoastronomy. This was something that was pioneered by a researcher named Robert Bauval, who first noticed that the structures at Giza were actually, mirror images of stars in the sky. And ever since that period, they've discovered that a number of ancient structures appear to have had the same knowledge of how to do that. So at Gobekli Tepe, what they discovered was that each one of these pillars that had a animal carved on it matched perfectly star constellations that would have been in the sky approximately 13,000 years ago. Now, this is truly fascinating because 13,000 years ago, we had a cometary impact on this planet. This cometary impact likely was the cause of the melting ice sheets and polar ice caps, and this led to the global flood that was recorded in every single ancient civilization, including the Sumerian, and later, of course, recorded as Noah's flood in the Bible. This is an interesting period of time. It's called the Younger Dryas period. This is a period of time when there was a megafaunal extinction taking place. That means entire varieties and species of animals and plants were going extinct from this cometary impact. And it's interesting that the date matches the period that this comet actually struck the Earth. And why that's so interesting is because all the way over to the UK and to Stonehenge, researchers there also made an amazing discovery. And not only did they make this discovery, but as I'll show you, two very interesting high-ranking Freemasons also came up with a very interesting thing that seems to be linked to all of this. So, first of all, I'm going to show you guys this. And this is, of course, on lifescience.com, highly credible source. And it's talking about the comet strike that occurred 13,000 years ago, dating exactly to the time when Gobekli Tepe was constructed. And I'll remind you, after it was constructed, it was completely covered again with dirt. They filled everything in. That, I suspect, was in an effort to preserve the monument. And the interesting thing about all of this is that at Stonehenge, these two Freemasons made the discovery that Stonehenge 2 was being used to predict the same cometary impact. And so I'll bring you up an actual research paper. This comes from Harvard, and this is literally the threshold of a new understanding of what all of these structures were meant for. And here is the paper. Now, if you look here, you'll see where it was printed. And here is a summary. And basically to find this, you just type in Stonehenge Comet Impact. It'll take you to this harvard.edu site. And from there, you can reach this actual research paper. And this research paper backs up exactly what these two high-ranking Freemasons say in their amazing book. And that book is called Uriel's Machine. Now, Uriel's Machine is very interesting because Knight and Lomas, the two authors, link the construction of Stonehenge to the so-called Watchers that were recorded in the Book of Enoch. Although in their book, they equate the Watchers with the grooved ware people who were, in that area in ancient times. I diverge from their findings at that point because the Watchers in the Book of Enoch are clearly not human in any way. And the Book of Enoch clearly points out that that these Watchers were probably, in all likelihood, the same as the Anunnaki in Sumerian lore. Now, the Book of Enoch states that, and by the way, it not only backs up the cometary impact, it fully describes the cometary impact as coming towards the earth. And Enoch says, I saw 3 burning mountains approaching the earth. Those 3 burning mountains were actually 3 fragments of the same comet. It impacted in various areas around the globe. All of them seem to have been ocean impacts. And this created mass destruction. This would have been the period when Atlantis disappeared. This would have been the period when perhaps even more advanced civilizations would have existed. And it was after this global flood that humanity really went into a stage of amnesia, historical amnesia about their own past. Now, the book of Enoch states that the Watchers were 200 in number, and they landed on Mount Armon, which is exactly in Turkey where Gobekli Tepe is discovered. So, Gobekli Tepe now has been found to calculate the same thing that Stonehenge was meant to calculate, and that's a thing called the precession of the equinoxes. And their ancient understanding was that when the Earth completed a 26,000-year cycle, which would be the same as the Mayans, New Age, and we're going into the age of Aquarius, etc. 26,000-year cycles known as the Great Precessional Cycle, and it's when you made your way around the entire zodiac from the sun's point of view. And it was at this stage that these ancients had the knowledge that the Earth was prone to cometary impacts. At the same time, there were some interesting government research papers published in the 1990s and were then published as an appendix to Graham Hancock's book, Fingerprints of the Gods, that conclusively link the precessional movement of the Earth to the onset of ice ages. So what these ancient structures were all predicting, and we have to realize that this lends a lot of credence to the idea that this was a worldwide knowledge that somebody had gone around and bestowed on all the ancients a way to calculate when this next cometary impact would take place. Once that was determined, the people who built Gobekli Tepe, or watchers who instructed them to do so, and if you read any of my books, you'll know that I believe that the 200 Anunnaki that were left here, according to the book of Enoch, which calls them watchers, was in fact Enki and his 200, you can refer to them as royal guard, basically in a nutshell, in our vernacular. And they were cast down really because of Enki's relationship to Noah and the fact that he had instructed humans in how to survive this flood. That was a big no-no, and that led to this big problem with the Watchers. The importance of that is that they were stranded here, and it's from them the knowledge of how to predict this cometary impact came from, and I believe that's how it spread around the world. So what we're seeing is a very profound secret that there's a lot of ancient clues that all point to the idea that all of these ancient structures that were all built around the same period were in fact used as calculators, astronomical calculators, for predicting the next time that the Earth would be in a place where a cometary impact would likely occur. And it's because of that this finding at Gobekli Tepe is so important, because of that tiny piece of the puzzle provides us with a way of seeing the true shape of the piece of the puzzle of Gobekli Tepe and how that actually fits into a much larger puzzle. So that's it for today, guys. I'm Jack Cary. This has been another episode of Threshold. And as always, next week I will bring you another subject that humanity is yet on the threshold of understanding.
You've been watching Threshold with Jack Cary, a Catskill Appalachian Research Collective production. For more information on this program and others like it, Remember to like, share, and subscribe to CARC Universal today. To join the conversation on our Facebook group, become a member of the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective Facebook group. CARC. Relentless.